Brr, it's cold in here. There must be some buku in the atmosphere. You should see Adam's face. Hi guys, welcome back to the Haunted Estate, where we dive deep into the most chilling stories that will make you grateful for your heated blanket and your hot cocoa. I am your host, Selena Myers, and buckle up, because today we are exploring a winter wonderland that is more nightmare than wonderland. When you think of winter, maybe you imagine cozy nights, festive lights, and Instagram-worthy snow scenes. But for some poor souls throughout history, winter is not just a season. It's a merciless killer.
It's cold.
It's cold. It's cold here. It's -7 today.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, today we are going to talk about disasters so brutal, so bone-chillingly horrific, that they will make your winter blues look like a tropical vacay.
I like those.
Yeah. Today we're diving into Deadly December, a tour through 5 winter catastrophes that prove Mother Nature doesn't mess around. And trust me, these aren't your grandmother's winter survival stories. These are tales of survival, desperation, and sometimes the absolute darkest side of human endurance.
Did your parents always tell you they walked 10 miles both directions uphill to school
Naked,
in the snow?
uphill, no shoes, no socks, through the snow, no coat, mini skirt. Yep.
They're full of bullshit, but these stories aren't.
No, these aren't. Before we begin our frostbitten journey, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and ring that notification bell. Now, grab your warmest blanket, crank up the thermostat, and prepare to feel simultaneously horrified and thankful, because hearing these stories, your worst winter day is gonna start to feel like a 5-star experience.
Can we do that? One of those 5-star experiences?
I would really like to go somewhere warm immediately. You wanna go Vegas right now? We'll finish. First up, we're going to talk about the Donner Party, a cannibalistic winter nightmare. All right, let's begin with a winter disaster that makes The Shining look like a pleasant family skiing trip, okay? The Donner Party tragedy. This isn't just a story about people getting lost in the snow. Oh no. This is a story of ambition, starvation, and cannibalism. Yum, keto. This story is going to make your stomach turn and your skin crawl, all right? Now picture it. It's 1846. Manifest destiny is all the rage. And a group of 87 pioneers decide that they're going to make the epic journey from Illinois to California.
Ooh. That's a journey.
That's a walk. Leading the pack are 2 families, the Donners and the Reeds. Now, they are basically the Oregon Trail version of influencers. They have big dreams, big wagons, and absolutely zero clue of the nightmare that is waiting for them in the Sierra Nevada mountains. George Donner.
The hills have eyes.
The hills have eyes. I'm scared. I don't want to know what's going to happen.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. George Donner and James Reed weren't your average pioneers. These guys were the startup entrepreneurs of their time, always looking for the next big shortcut. And boy, did they find a shortcut. The Hastings Cutoff, a supposed faster route to what is about to become their ultimate worst decision.
You never take the shortcut.
Never take the shortcut.
You don't take the shortcut.
It's not worth it.
It's a hook. It's a movie hook.
Yes! You're gonna die. The journey started like most epic adventures, full of hope, excitement, and way too much optimism. Families packed their wagons with everything from cast iron skillets to family Bibles, dreaming of a fertile California farmland.
Ooh.
Kids
I
were
like
probably...
farms.
You like fertile farmland, don't you?
Yes.
You got a lot of fertile farmland
Big
here.
fan of mine.
You're
I'm a big fan of it, yes.
You're gonna plant an orchard.
Yes.
And what are you gonna call it?
I don't know yet.
Guys, if you have a good idea for a name for an orchard for us, not spooky related at all, Adam related, drop it in the comments.
Drop it in the comments. Let me know what you would call your orchard.
Yeah.
It's not specifically a fruit, an apple orchard or a peach orchard. It's just going to be every type of everything.
All the fruits.
So don't specify it to a single fruit, please.
You know what'd be funny? You
What?
could do a play on like LGBTQA, but it's like all the different fruits.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, now check this out. I love working with brands that I'm already obsessed about, so I am so excited to tell you more about Skims. Guys, I love their Fits Everybody collection because there is something for everybody, and it fits everybody. These boy shorts are buttery smooth, and after I did IVF, dude, you don't even feel like you're wearing underwear. It is crazy. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I gave up on push-up bras forever because they pinched and they pulled and they felt horrible. So when I heard about the Skims push-up bra, I was like, wait, I'm gonna try it out. Maybe this is gonna work. It's reinforced. It's double ply, it's comfy, it's reinforced. No, I was like, no way. But, guys, are you ready for this? Ready? Look, these are my boobies before. Sad, saggy boobies. Then bam! Look at that! Holding them up, feeling great. So guys, click the link in the description and check out the Fits Everybody collection. It's available in sizes extra, extra small to 4X. After you place your order, be sure to let them know I sent you. Select YouTube in the survey and be sure to select my channel in the drop-down menu that follows. If you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. Also at skims.com. Thank you so much, Skims, for sponsoring the show. Check it. You won't regret it. Welcome back. Let's jump into it. So guys, these kids were probably singing pioneer songs. Adults were trading stories around the campfires, totally unaware that they were heading straight into one of the most horrific survival stories in American history. But here's where things go from family road trip to absolute horror show. The Hastings cutoff, a total disaster instead of saving time, it added about 125 miles to their journey and consumed precious weeks during the most critical traveling season. Their wagon train was slowed to a crawl, crossing salt flats that destroyed wagon wheels, exhausting their oxen, and burning through supplies faster than a California wildfire.
That's fast. That shit's dry.
By the time they reached the base of the Sierra Nevada in late October, winter was not just coming. It had arrived, and with a vengeance!
Woo.
Snow was already accumulating in massive amounts, and these pioneers were woefully unprepared. We're talking about people who thought that their wool coats and pioneer spirits would be enough to survive what would become one of the coldest and most brutal winters on record.
We don't like those.
No, I kind of want one though, because I'm inside the house.
Oh, no thanks.
Not cold, just snow. Yeah, I want to go sledding. The first major snowstorm hit in November, trapping the wagon train near Truckley Lake, now known as Donner Lake. Imagine being stuck in a place where temperatures can plummet to -40 Fahrenheit, with winds that could slice through flesh like a knife.
Like Canada? That's Canada.
This is just sounding like home, isn't it? Their initial makeshift camps became permanent winter prisons, with crude cabins and tents serving as their only protection against nature's most brutal assault. Food became the ultimate challenge, and they had killed most of their oxen earlier in the journey, and their stored supplies were dwindling faster than their hope. Hunting became nearly impossible with constant snowstorms. Families huddled together, watching children grow thinner, listening to stomachs that growled louder than the winter winds. Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, there's nothing like being cold and hungry.
Cold and hungry?
What's that? That's like icy hangry.
And you'd last so long because you have like unlimited water because of the snow, but the water's cold.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Not cold.
By mid-December, the situation had become truly desperate. And when I say desperate, I mean desperado. The first recorded instances of cannibalism began, initially with consuming those who had already died from cold and starvation. But as the weeks turned into months and hope became nothing more than a distant memory, some of the members of the party made choices that would haunt them forever.
Would you eat me if we were freezing cold and ran out of food?
No.
And I was dead?
You were dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'd start on your thick thighs.
My thick thighs?
Would you eat me?
No. I would preserve your body and starve because I love you so much.
Adam, stop. Would you eat me?
No.
Adam, would you eat me?
No, you're beautiful.
What would
and I
you
would keep
start
your
on?
body in pristine condition.
You're a liar. What part would you eat first?
No.
Eat me.
No.
Eat me.
No.
Promise if we're in this situation, you will eat me.
Only if you're alive.
If I'm alive?
Carry on.
What the fuck? The most infamous rescue attempts came in multiple waves. The first relief party reached the survivors in February 1847, finding a scene that looked more like a horror movie set than a pioneer settlement. Of the 87 original members, only 48 would survive, a survival rate that seems almost miraculous considering the circumstances. But survival came at a cost, a psychological, spiritual, and very literal human cost that would echo through generations. Some survivors never spoke about their experience again, carrying the trauma of those winter months like a silent, frozen wound. The Donner Party was not just a tragedy. It was a stark reminder of human vulnerability in the face of nature's most unforgiving conditions.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
That reminds me of that movie from way back. Oh, I'm going to age myself right here. But a plane crashes
Yeah.
And it's like super snowy and icy, and they start eating people. They start eating the dead. Somebody in the comments hook me up with the name of that movie.
At least they wouldn't rot because it's cold. I don't know why I'm hungry. This is the Children's Blizzard, a frozen classroom of horrors. Just when you thought the Donner Party was the coldest, most heartbreaking winter story out there, hold on to your thermal underwear because the Children's Blizzard of 1888 is about to make your blood run colder than the temperatures that day. January 12th, 1888 started like any other winter day on the American frontier Midwest. Midwest school children bundled up in layers, trudging through snow-covered prairies of Nebraska, Kansas, and the Dakotas. Little did they know that they were walking into what would become one of the most devastating meteorological massacres of American history.
Meteorological. I think I just messed it up too.
It's okay, we leave it.
I'm trying to be
It's
smart
dead.
and I just pull the dumb.
The morning began with deceptive warmth. Temperatures had actually risen to near spring-like conditions. We're talking 30 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Farmers were outside doing chores without heavy coats. Kids were playing during school recess without even wearing mittens. It was the kind of day that made people think, hey, maybe winter is just finally giving us like a little bit of a break.
I like those Indian summers.
Can you call those that anymore?
You can't say that anymore, can you?
What do we call them now?
I apologize.
No, that's what it, you can't. That's what
we call them indigenous summers now.
I don't know. Becca, can you figure out if people are still doing that? So guys, spoiler alert, winter was not giving anyone a break. Around midday, the sky transformed from a mild winter blue into something straight out of a gosh dang horror movie. A massive Arctic cold front, and when I say massive, I mean apocalyptic, came screaming across the plains like a vengeful ice deity. Temperatures plummeted from those in the mid-30s and 40s to double-digit negatives in minutes. We're talking a temperature drop of nearly 50 degrees in less than 15 minutes. Who's recording this? How do we know this is real?
Right?
How do they know? They're like, wow, that really feels 50 degrees colder than it was. Moving on. Visibility disappeared faster than your hopes and dreams. Winds reached up to 60 miles per hour, creating a whiteout so thick that you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. Imagine being a small child suddenly surrounded by a wall of white so dense it might as well be a solid object. No landmarks, no direction, just pure, terrifying white.
They're probably at the ice wall of the flat Earth.
You're having a time today, sweetie. Back it
Okay,
up.
sorry. Is the Earth round or flat? I'm not sure anymore.
Adam, don't. You know it's round.
Trying to hit the other algorithm here too.
And here's where it gets truly horrifying. Many of the rural schoolhouses were one-room structures, often miles from the nearest neighbor. When the blizzard hit, teachers faced an impossible choice. Keep the kids inside or send them home.
Send them home. Send them home.
No.
They love going home.
But then they're lost when the
Oh,
water.
this isn't like canceled buses or
No.
anything. This is more serious.
Some chose to keep the children in the schoolhouse, which would prove to be a life-saving decision. Other idiots
Oh.
released their students, essentially sentencing many to a frozen death.
Dun,
March.
dun, 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 dun.
Take the story of Etta Shattuck, a 16-year-old teacher. 16-year-old teacher? Oh my gosh. In Dakota Territory. When the storm hit, she made the gut-wrenching decision to lead her students to what she thought was safety. Imagine being a teenage girl responsible for keeping a large group of children alive in conditions that would make the polar explorers think twice.
Man, props to her.
Yeah, well, by the time they were found, Etta and several of her students had frozen to death, a mere yards from potential shelter.
No way.
The story,
Could you imagine almost making it?
like, it was just white
Crawling
and like,
through the snow frozen.
with all those kids.
Oh, so sad.
The stories of survival are nothing short of miraculous and absolutely heartbreaking. Some children survived by digging into haystacks. Others were found frozen in bizarre positions, having tried desperately to create some form of shelter. Parents who, when searching for their children, often became victims themselves, creating an entire family of tragedies in one single afternoon. In total, approximately 235 people died during the children's blizzard, with nearly half being children. Many died just yards from their home or in schoolhouses, lost in a murderous void. Farmers found entire families frozen together, huddled in final, desperate embraces. What makes this blizzard truly horrifying isn't just the death toll, but how quickly civilization can collapse when nature decides to throw a tantrum. One moment, you're a school teacher, wondering what's for lunch, and then next, you're fighting a snow monster that wants nothing more than to erase your existence. The aftermath changed everything. Frontier schools developed emergency protocols. Families learned to build stronger storm shelters. It was a brutal education paid for in human lives. Most of the innocent children who were simply just trying to get home on what seemed like an ordinary winter day.
So, this is one of those situations where people are online complaining about the state of 2024. You have never had a more comfortable time in your life to live in a... Okay, some people aren't living in a home, I'm very sorry. But like for the most part, some people are at home with their heat cranked to 74. It's minus 50 out, and they're complaining.
I always will have like a butthurt moment, and then I look at all the things are, and then I'm like, I need to show gratitude. I have so much, and I am so blessed.
Yes.
And they say that if you have a roof over your head and food in your stomach, you're doing better than it's more than 50% of people in the world. It's like 80% of people in the world, which is devastating.
It's insane.
Devastating.
I don't know if it's 80, but could be. If that's that number, we need to do an episode on that, because that's
Becca,
insane.
What's the
and
number?
Sad.
That's so sad. Next up, we have White Friday, the frozen battlefield of 1916. The White Friday avalanches of 1916 weren't just a natural disaster. They were this word keeps popping up,
Meteorological.
Bro. They were a meteorological murder weapon. Meteorological murder weapon in the middle of World War I, turning the pristine Alpine mountains into a frozen tomb for thousands of soldiers. The Italian-Austrian front during World War I, we're talking about the Dolomite Mountains. A view so breathtakingly beautiful, it looks like something from a postcard. Except this postcard was written in blood and ice.
Whoa.
These weren't just mountains. They were vertical battlefields where soldiers were fighting an enemy more terrifying than any human opponent. World War I was already a nightmare of unprecedented brutality. Trench warfare had turned combat into a meat grinder of human suffering. But in the Alpine regions, soldiers were fighting a war that defied every conventional understanding of battlefield combat. These are troops positioned on mountain peaks thousands of feet above sea level, where the enemy wasn't just the opposing army, but it was the mountain itself. December 1916 was particularly brutal, not beautiful. The Alps experienced one of the most extreme winter seasons in recorded history. Snow wasn't just falling, it was accumulating in massive, unstable layers that would transform into deadly avalanches with the slightest disturbance. Snow masses that could easily weigh thousands of tons, ready to be triggered by anything from a loud noise to a sudden temperature change. On December 13th, the mountains decided to unleash absolute hell. A series of massive avalanches swept through both Austrian and Italian positions, creating what would become known as White Friday, a day that would make the term winter warfare sound like a grotesque understatement. The Austrian Alpine Corps were particularly devastated. Imagine being a soldier already exhausted from weeks of high-altitude combat, freezing in trenches carved into solid ice and rock, when suddenly the entire mountainside decides to consume you. In the Valtilian region, entire military encampments were wiped out in seconds. We're talking about hundreds of soldiers literally erased from existence, buried under millions of tons of snow and ice. One of the most horrifying avalanche sites was the Monte Marmolda, known as the Queen of the Dolomites. On this particular day, the mountain lived up to its royal title by executing a mass execution of soldiers. An estimated 300 Austrian troops were buried alive when massive amounts of avalanche swept through their positions. Not killed in combat, not fighting heroically, simply erased by the mountain's indifferent fury. The Italian positions weren't spared either. In the Adamello region, entire battalions found themselves trapped between the human conflict and nature's most brutal weapon. Soldiers who survived initial avalanches faced even more terrifying challenge. Rescue was nearly impossible, and in these conditions, many would die a slow, agonizing death beneath from exposure, their bodies never to be recovered. Military commanders of the time were essentially playing a deadly game of chess with the mountains as their board. They understood that the artillery fire, troop movements, and even the sound of soldiers talking could potentially trigger these frozen time bombs. Some estimates suggest that many more soldiers died from avalanches during this period than direct combat. The numbers were absolutely staggering, and on that single day, White Friday, an estimated 10,000 soldiers died. Not from bullets, not from bayonets, but from snow. Pure, white, merciless snow. To put that in perspective, that is like wiping out an entire military regiment in a matter of minutes with zero resistance and zero warning. Survivor accounts are nothing short of nightmarish. Soldiers described hearing a low rumble like a distant thunder before entire mountains transformed into liquid death. Some described the avalanches as moving so fast that there was no time to run, no time to hide, just a white wall of destruction, consuming everything in its path. The most horrifying part, many of these bodies were honestly never recovered. The mountains kept their secrets, with the soldiers becoming permanent residents of these icy tombs. Decades later, the glaciers would slowly recede, some of these frozen soldiers being discovered. Perfect human time capsules preserved in ice, a stark reminder of nature's indifference to human conflict. World War I changed warfare forever, but the White Friday avalanches revealed a deeper truth. In the face of true nature power, human conflicts seem pretty pathetically insignificant. We build our wars, draw our battle lines, create our grand strategies. Then a mountain can erase thousands of lives in a heartbeat. That's crazy. Can you imagine, like, you're standing at the side and you're like looking at your buddies and he's waving and he doesn't even just know, and then your buddy's just like,
Avalanches are scary, dude.
I see them
They're
sometimes on
just
TikTok.
Insanity. If you're caught in one, there's like little hope.
I see like the rock avalanches, like in like mountain places. I've seen like snow avalanches. Even like dudes, like you see them like skiing on TikTok and they're coming down a mountain and like the snow is chasing them and they're trying to like outrun the snow.
Insane.
How many people die a year in avalanches?
I don't know. Let us know, Becca.
Next up, we have the Great Ice Storm of 1998, when civilization froze over. The North American ice storm of 1998 isn't just a weather event, it is a case study in how quickly modern civilization can completely collapse when nature decides to throw the ultimate temper tantrum. January 5th to January 9th, 1998, 5 days that would transform parts of the eastern Canada and the northeastern United States into a post-apocalyptic rubble. Well, not rubble, it'd be snow, right? That would make Hollywood disaster movies look like amateur hour. Now, we're talking about an ice storm so extreme that it would become the costliest natural disaster in Canadian history, causing over $3 billion in damages and leaving millions without power in the dead of winter. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it was really bad in Quebec.
And wasn't the power out for like 8 days or like 5 days around here?
It was a while for sure.
Yeah.
The one you're thinking about is when the power went out in the summer. Remember that?
Oh yeah, because I was older, because I wouldn't remember
the
this.
power plant blew up. Yeah, this is different.
But this wasn't just about some snow. Oh no, this was about the perfect storm that would make scientists scratch their heads every day. People would question whether the apocalypse had honestly arrived early. I can imagine some religious people going off on that. The setup was deceptively simple. Multiple weather systems converged over the region of warm air from the Gulf of Mexico and cold Arctic air pushing down from the north, and a massive high pressure system that created the most nightmarish temperature conditions imaginable. Temperatures hovered right around freezing, that magical, terrible point where precipitation could fall as rain, but instantly freeze on contact with any surface. We get crazy ice storms here. Sometimes like this thick ice, and you can't even get into your car. Imagine a world where everything, and I mean everything, becomes an ice sculpture. It happens at least once a year here, doesn't it, Adam? Once or twice?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Usually around now. Now imagine things encased in inches of solid ice, trees transformed into fragile glass structures, ready to shatter at the slightest touch. Roads, forget about driving. We are talking about surfaces so thick that even walking became an extreme sport. The Quebec region was hit the hardest, you're right. Cities like Montreal became ghost towns as the ice accumulated. Now, we're not talking about a light frosting. We are talking about ice accumulation that reached up to 4 inches thick in some areas. Yeah. To put that into perspective, that's like covering everything in your house in a layer of solid ice thick enough to walk on. Power lines became so heavy that entire transmission towers, massive steel structures designed to withstand extreme conditions, simply collapsed under the weight. At the storm's peak, nearly 1.4 million people lost power. But this wasn't a simple, oh, the lights are out situation. We're talking about a complete infrastructure collapse right in the middle of one of the coldest regions in the continent. Temperatures plummeted well below freezing, turning this from a power outage into a potential mass casualty event. The electrical grid became a catastrophic domino effect of failure. When power lines went down, entire regions were plunged into darkness and freezing temperatures. Backup generators failed, communication systems collapsed, hospitals were forced to run emergency power, with medical staff working in near impossible conditions to just try and keep patients alive. Rural communities were hit particularly hard. We're prepped, right?
Yep.
Okay. Imagine being a farmer in rural Quebec, suddenly cut off from the outside world, with livestock freezing, water pipes bursting, and temperatures dropping so low that survival became a moment-to-moment battle. Some farmers resorted to bringing entire herds of cattle into their homes just to keep them alive. The Canadian military was also called in, and this wasn't a small-scale operation. We are talking about the largest civilian emergency response in Canadian history up to that point. Over 16,000 Canadian Armed Forces personnel were deployed. They weren't just helping, they were essentially keeping entire communities alive. Soldiers went door to door checking on residents, providing emergency supplies, and performing rescue operations in conditions that would make most people give up immediately. Indigenous communities were among the most vulnerable. In places like the Mohawk Territory, entire communities were isolated, with traditional survival skills becoming their only lifeline. Elders spoke out, never seeing anything like this winter in their lifetime. The storm so complete in its destruction that it seemed to almost supernatural. The environment impact was equally devastating. Millions of trees were destroyed, not just damaged, but completely obliterated. Forests that had stood for centuries were transformed into fields of broken ice-covered matchsticks. Entire ecosystems were fundamentally altered in a matter of days. And that's interesting around here because we see that because we live in a forest. If there's a storm, you're going to hear trees go down. But when that ice is on trees, you think they're so strong, but they've like tripled their weight or doubled their weight, and you just hear them go down, and it's an incredible noise. Now, here's where it gets truly terrifying if that wasn't scary enough. The long-term human impact. Over 30 people died directly from the storm, but the indirect deaths were much higher. Hypothermia, carbon monoxide poisoning from emergency heating, medical complications from the lack of power. The storm's deadly tendrils reached far beyond its initial 5-day assault. So guys, this is 1998, so you'd think we'd have more things set up here. Some communities were without power for weeks. Weeks in a Canadian winter. Let that sink in for a minute. Imagine being completely cut off from civilization with temperatures that could kill you in hours if you weren't prepared. The economic impact was catastrophic. Agriculture was decimated. Infrastructure would take years to fully recover. The storm exposed every single weakness to our modern technological society. How quickly we become vulnerable when our basic systems fail. What's most chilling, pun absolutely intended, is how close we came to a complete societal breakdown. In many areas, the difference between survival and total disaster was nothing more than access to a few extra blankets, some canned food, and some basic understanding about winter survival skills. Scientists would later point to this storm as a potential harbinger of climate change. These weren't just random weather events anymore. They were becoming more frequent, more intense, more destructive. The Great Ice Storm of 1998 wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a warning.
I don't like ice.
I don't like ice either. Ice, ice, baby! People died, Selena. You shouldn't have done that.
No.
30 people, though? I thought it would have been a lot higher.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1998.
They say we're going to have a crazy winter this year, where I am. Like, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be a lot of snow. Like, not cold, but like...
It's already snowing. It's already cold. That's way ahead of schedule
Yeah.
than to what we've had.
We had a
recently.
snowstorm on Christmas last year. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next up is the Soviet Winter War, when nature became the ultimate weapon. Here's our final winter nightmare, a story that proves once and for all that Mother Nature is the most ruthless military strategist in human history. The Soviet Winter War of 1939 to 1940 isn't just a conflict. It is a masterclass in how winter can turn an entire military invasion into frozen hell. December 1939, the Soviet Union decides to invade Finland, thinking it'll be a quick, easy conquest. Spoiler, Finland had other plans. And by plans, I mean they're about to turn the entire Russian invasion force into a massive human popsicle. The Finnish weren't just prepared for winter, but they were winter incarnate. These were people who basically came out of the womb wearing thermal underwear and carrying survival gear. The Soviet military, on the other hand, were about to learn a brutal lesson in what happens when you underestimate both your enemy and the most terrifying weapon of all, the cold. The temperature wasn't just cold. The temperatures would make even a polar bear think twice about going outside. We're talking about minus 40 Fahrenheit. At these temperatures, metal becomes brittle, machinery fails, humans become walking ice sculptures, weapons literally freeze solid, and your spit freezes before it hits the ground. Now we're talking, that is cold. Soviet soldiers arrived in summer uniforms. Okay? Let that sink in for like one thought moment. Yep. Uniforms in Finland in December, it was like showing up to a nuclear war with water pistols and shorts. And their tanks? Useless. Their trucks? Paperweights. Their guns? Frequently too cold to fire. Interesting. The Finns had a term for their particular brand of winter warfares. Moti. Tactics. Essentially, they would allow the Soviet forces to advance and then cut them off, surrounding them, and let winter do the killing. And boy, did winter deliver. Soviet soldiers would wake up to find their entire units frozen solid, looking like some kind of macabre ice sculpture exhibition. Finnish soldiers wore white camouflage that made them virtually invisible in the snow. They used skis to move rapidly around the terrain that turned the Soviet soldiers into sitting ducks. They knew every tree, every rock, and every potential shelter. The Soviets were invading an environment that the Finns just considered home. The numbers were absolutely horrifying. The Soviet Union started the war with about 450,000 troops. By the end, they had lost approximately 126,875 soldiers. Not to bullets, but to Finnish resistance, but to cold, to exposure, to a winter so brutal that it made it actual combat look like a mild inconvenience. Soviet military equipment was decimated. Tanks became useless hunks of metal, guns frequently jammed, vehicles refused to start, and soldiers often had to burn their own equipment just to stay warm. The Finnish losses? Dramatically lower, around 25,000 compared to the Soviets' 126,875. And here's the kicker. Finland maintained its independence. David didn't just beat Goliath, David froze Goliath solid, and then laughed about it. Death is never funny. Military historians would later call this the perfect example of asymmetrical warfare. The Soviets had a massive numerical superiority and modern equipment and overwhelming force. The Finns had skis, white camouflage, and an intimate understanding that winter is not just a season, it is a weapon. But here is the truly terrifying part. This wasn't just military conflict. This was a brutal dance between human ambition and natural fury. Every soldier who died didn't die from a bullet or a bomb. They died from something more primal, from cold so intense that it would kill you faster than any weapon. The Soviet Winter War became a cautionary tale, a reminder that no matter how advanced our technology becomes, no matter how powerful our militaries are, nature always has the final say. Winter doesn't care about your invasion plans. Winter doesn't negotiate. Winter simply annihilates. From the Donner Party's desperate survival to the frozen battlefields of the Soviet Winter War, these stories are not just historical footnotes, but they are brutal reminders of our vulnerability. Winter is not just a season. Winter is a force, a killer, a storyteller that writes its narrative in frost, in human suffering, in survival against impossible odds. Now guys, this has been Selena Myers, signing off for the Haunted Estate. If you survived this frostbitten journey with me, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop me a comment about Adam's orchard, or tell me your craziest winter story. Maybe it'll end up in another episode. Alright, see you later, Boo Crew.
Bye!
Woo!